Hey everyone, and welcome to this video from PublishPress. I'm Steve Birch, and a couple of weeks ago, I stumbled across a really interesting set of conversations on the WordPress GitHub repo. It was from a group of developers who are trying to implement Google Docs style editing into WordPress, into the new Gutenberg editor. The idea behind this is that you would be able to log in at the same time as someone else to the same WordPress post and edit in real time together. You'd be able to collaborate. One person would be changing one part of the text, one person would be changing another. Perhaps you could leave comments and talk back and forth in real time. The idea is really intriguing. I know people love this feature in Google Docs, and it would be wonderful if we could bring this to WordPress. However, there are some technical challenges, and it's not going to be an easy thing to do. There is a team working on this using a library called YJS. The team is on the call with me today. I'm going to talk with Fabian, Franz, and Michael, who work with a company called Tag One, and they've been tackling this for a long time, and they actually see a much bigger picture than I'd imagined when we first started talking about this. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. It starts off by talking about Gutenberg, but soon goes much wider, and we start talking about collaborative editing on the web in general. Hey, everyone, and welcome. We wrote a post on the PublishPress blog a couple of weeks ago after a collaborative editing issue popped up on the WordPress GitHub. Lots of people started talking about the ability to do Google Docs style live collaborative editing in WordPress. And I'm lucky enough to have some of the team that are working on that at the moment with me. Can you guys introduce yourselves quickly?
Hi, I think I go first. Hi, I'm Kevin Jans. I'm the author of shared editing framework YJS. Also the author of the pull request that you talked about, enabling collaborative editing in Gutenberg.
Okay, you're based in Germany. You work for?
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm based in Germany, Berlin, exactly. I'm a contractor. I'm currently working with Tag One on a lot of exciting shared editing projects. We are looking for more projects like this and exploring the whole area about shared editing.
I'm Fabian Franz. I've been working with Kevin on this really cool collaborative editing project. In this case, we have been working with Scopal in that and Postmiro and not Gutenberg, so a little bit different editor. But I think it's a really fascinating technology. And that's why we're here to talk about this. And in my opinion, every CMS on the whole market, all of those should have shared collaborative editing built in out of the box.
Go on, Michael.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Steve. Michael Myers. I'm based out of New York City. Along with Fabian, I work for Tag One Consulting. I'm the managing director and oversee day-to-day operations and business.
Cool. So let me start by trying to define the problem so that people that are new to this can get a clear understanding. The way I try to describe it to people who are new to it is it's Google Docs style editing that if someone else makes a change, it will appear on your screen in real time and multiple people can be working on a document at one time. Is that a fair description of the goal for WordPress and Gutenberg here? Are we just trying to rip off Google Docs, or is there a slightly different goal that we're aiming for here?
Yeah, I would like to answer this one. So I think it would be great if we could rip off Google, basically just enabling collaborative editing. But I also want to say that YJS, the framework that enables shared editing for Gutenberg, it's so much more. It started as a project actually for peer-to-peer collaboration. So serverless collaborative editing, where clients can connect directly with each other, for example, via WebRTC or any other technology, instead of relying on some proprietary server technology that you need to buy or that you need to rent. YJS grew into this whole ecosystem of shared data types, which enable you to build any collaborative application, and also enables you to do For example, something that Google Docs also supports is snapshots, showing differences between two snapshots, which is one of the more complicated features, but also supports a lot of things that Google Docs doesn't really do at the moment.
Oh, okay. So the framework that you're working on, which is YJS, it is collaborative everything almost.
Yeah,
the framework that you're working on has much bigger goals than simply collaborative editing.
Yeah. So my goal is to make any application in like 2022 collaborative. Like, I don't understand why we don't have collaborative applications anywhere yet. For example, when I open a presentation tool, I should be able to work with other people at the same time on that presentation, because it really makes sense to do that. Also, drawing applications, they should be collaborative too, like any web-based drawing application. Why is that not done yet? Because the technology to sync those changes to each other doesn't exist yet, or the technology to really represent those changes efficiently and without like a huge knowledge in this area. This technology does not really exist yet. And with YJS, I try to make this more accessible to more people, to more application developers. At the moment, YJS supports many like 6 editors, I think. There's Code Mirror, Prose Mirror editor. We are starting with the Gutenberg editor, looking really forward to that. Also the Quill.js editor, the Monaco editor, which is the editor for example, for VS Code. And there are a lot of integrations for YJS. And Gutenberg, if you want so, is just one addition to the YJS ecosystem.
What's also really interesting is, and we've talked about that before, Kevin, but I want to mention it, is you could basically say make every React application like collaborative, because they usually just depend on some state. So as soon as you remotely manage the state, you can make it collaborative, and that gives, especially where front-end technologies like right now, a lot of possibilities. And some of the advantages of YJS we are here already seeing within Gutenberg, because it's a React application with a state, etc. And you have all of these blocks. And this is really where Gutenberg is different from Google Docs, because Google Docs it's like text document. It's like 1988 style word editing, but Gutenberg is so much more with all those blocks, the different widgets that you can download, etc. And to enable all of those to be collaborative, that's a real cool thing in that. And then you also have features like mentions, like in Google, etc., where you need to take special attention to, for example, that while someone is typing a mention, you probably don't want someone else to see that, but just when they have finished typing it and chosen the right person, because it would be really confusing if it first says Steve and then says Stephen and then says someone else, etc. So you also need to tweak the tools a little bit to be real-time ready. And that's another very important area to explore.
Oh, okay. So my original question was, what's your goal with this? And your goal is much wider than WordPress or Gutenberg. It's to bring collaborative tools to the wider web in general. If this ends up launching in Gutenberg, can you give people an idea of what they might expect when, say, the first version goes live? Will they be able to have multiple people logging in and editing the same document in real time? Will they be able to see the changes the other people are making?
So what is possible right now is you can go in, you can pull my branch or our branch, and you can just start collaborating any document that you open. If another person opens that document too, the changes that you do are automatically synced. So this was the first step to that. And now we are looking to do some other integrations. For example, we need to show those cursor icons from remote users, which is like a really important thing to me, especially. So these awareness features, you know who's currently working on the document, you know where they're working via cursor locations. This is the next step. And there's still some, like, I'm still getting to know the Gutenberg editor. As Fabian said, it's a great product. It's really fun to work with. Also, it's a complete new area for me. I've never worked with the Gutenberg editor. So yeah, it's still some exploring, but this is the next step. And I guess in a few weeks, we can see that all of this will be possible. And after that, something really important also needs to happen. We need to write a WordPress plugin to enable those peers to find each other. This is currently handled by a JavaScript server. And we want to handle that in WordPress directly via a plugin. We haven't figured all the details out yet, but I think it makes sense to do that. And well, how it will work then is basically you open your document, two people open the document, they will see each other, they will communicate via the WordPress server and find each other and create a WebRTC connection, which is basically a TCP connection between two peers directly without having the round trip over the server, which would really make sense because we don't want to overload the WordPress server because many edits will happening. Every keystroke will be an edit, and we don't want to send every message to the WordPress side. So these peers, they will sync via WebRTC, and when they click the save button, or if you have it enabled, the autosave, they will send the document to the WordPress site.
So one of the key things here is that because it's written in JavaScript and it's peer-to-peer, WordPress users won't need to install any additional technology. So this can be distributed as core part of WordPress. Everyone can have it out of the box.
Because this is a problem that the WordPress team have been trying to tackle for, I think, 3 or 4 years at least. And quite a few of the other solutions involved things like WebSockets. And the limitations were on low-end hosts. You would often have to get a WebSocket server started. There were some real problems with some of the cheaper shared hosting, perhaps trying to get collaborative editing running on that. So the approach that you're taking is peer-to-peer, and you're saying that this might be perhaps a more lightweight, sustainable approach that can work for WordPress no matter where it's hosted?
Exactly, that's the goal. You want, whether you're using VIP or WordPress.com or you're self-hosting on an inexpensive server, we want to make this technology available to everyone.
Yeah, and if you look at other, like, completely different, but there's, for example, this game streaming service called Parsec. They really showed that it's possible to do all this hole punching, even with the web browser, with WebRTC, to get the clients to connect to each other. So we know it's possible. It's just it needs to be done, basically. And but yeah, the future of the web, the distributed web, being able to directly connect to each other peer-to-peer with all the technologies that are now possible in that. And in the worst case, someone could still sponsor like a relay where you could communicate via that, and this could be like a community project sponsored server somewhere. This is really just for those low-end machines that can't handle that. Node.js is also already optimized for being as efficient as possible as a protocol, so it doesn't have much overhead in when it sends its state-changing messages. So I think it's a perfect fit in that.
How proven is this technology? We're talking about rolling it out on 35% of the web. Is this something that you guys have been using for projects for your customers in Drupal, with other editors? How solid and how proven is the solution that you guys are proposing with YJS?
So we've built this into an intranet for one of the top Fortune 50 companies. They have 20,000 active users at any one time across well over 100 countries. It is highly scalable. We're continuing to build out the solution. Right now it's integrated. We have Prose Mirror and Code Mirror integrated into Drupal to power this. So it's fully working in production at relative scale. The next thing is to drive it for, all WordPress users, all Drupal users, all Django users. So we're pretty confident in its ability to scale and meet the needs of any of these platforms, especially because it's peer-to-peer.
Oh, okay. So this is a a YJS first project almost, that YJS is driving the bus and it's connecting to Drupal sites through CodeMirror perhaps, or maybe CK Editor. Then it will be connecting to Gutenberg. It will be connecting perhaps to other platforms. That YJS is the underlying technology that's really making this Google Docs style approach in Gutenberg possible.
Exactly. YJS can make any application real-time collaborative. So we have a whiteboarding application that we're using as part of this intranet that's in development, so that you can whiteboard and draw together in real time. But you can make any application collaborative. And we have, or Kevin has, active demos for 3D modeling and other applications. So the goal, YJS is a framework to abstract the complexity of doing shared editing in any application.
Oh, okay. So when I came on this call, I was originally thinking much smaller, just in terms of Google Docs, just in terms of Gutenberg blocks. But you guys are thinking collaborative drawing, collaborative whiteboarding, collaborative editing for just about anything that's web-based. And you guys think you found an open source way to do that that doesn't rely on SaaS services, doesn't rely on a centralized server.
It also goes beyond web applications. You can embed this into native desktop applications. If you think about the way that modern workforces work, it's highly collaborative. You know, we spend our day in Google Docs working together. You know, we're using video conferencing to share screens because most applications aren't collaborative. So, you know, we very much think that collaboration is key to enabling workforces to operate. You know, we need to remove the friction and make people much more efficient.
Yeah, and they have experiments in pair programming where some of the more traditional text editor-based solutions have already been successfully used. In that, for example, two people are just collaborating on code together, the co-working, but via remote. And I think both for climate and for other reasons, pushing remote working is a very important thing because it has less commute times for everyone, etc. So I think this collaboration could be so much more in that it allows remote working to feel much more in line, that you're really together in an office. Both video can enable that, but also being able to work on the same computer, so to speak, together in a co-working way. This enables so much in the future, and that's why we think this is so important for Gutenberg and WordPress, because if WordPress would be shipping with it, as we said, to 35% in the internet, and we really could make this work, this would have a huge impact on the overall ecosystem of everything.
Wow, this is going on a much more philosophical direction than I had originally thought it would do. So you guys have a real passion for this, it sounds like. Is it also being driven by the customers? For example, Michael, you mentioned this very large project, Drupal-based, I think, that you're working on. Is this something that your customers are coming to Tag One for and saying, we need collaborative editing in the platforms you're building for us?
It's something that we arrived at together. So in talking about the feature set of their intranet and how their workforce comes together and some of the drawbacks and challenges that we faced, we identified this as, you know, a killer feature. And when we were in early development and we were doing demos to people internally, it blew everybody away. You know, they were really excited about it. You know, it can be applied to layout building, whether you're using Drupal or Squarespace, you know, the dragging blocks around in Gutenberg. So, you know, they want to go beyond the text, rich text editing and the collaborative drawing and make every aspect of the application fully collaborative. So that's definitely been driving some of the YJS implementations. Simultaneous to that, Tag One has been sponsoring and funding Kevin to build it out in general and continue to improve the feature set, you know, integrated with things like WordPress and other open source projects.
Oh, okay. So one of the next phases of Gutenberg is turning the whole of the WordPress layout into Gutenberg blocks. So beyond editing again, you could feasibly in the future be working on a whole site design. Your whole site front end is built with Gutenberg blocks, and you can be dragging and dropping and collaborating and doing a layout in real time using Gutenberg and YJS.
Exactly.
Rather than just text, it's a lot more than just text. It's anything that's in Gutenberg or possibly in other editors as well could be collaborative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want to make every aspect of your application collaborative.
But it's also text, and I think that's important because you still have, even on sites that are very layout focused, you still have large blocks of text usually that editors write, publishers write, and they still want to collaborate directly on it within WordPress in this case, instead of first collaborating in Google Docs, then copy it over, and then swing back and forth, because it just eliminates this whole step of needing to go to there.
One of the awesome features about YJS that we really love is its offline capabilities and support. We talked about, Google Docs and parity with those features. I think that's another area where YJS excels because of its CRDT approach. And so we're able to do a large amount of work offline or with intermittent or slow connections and sync these documents.
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture. We originally started with Gutenberg and then went way back to talk about YJS and collaborative editing across multiple platforms. Just in terms of the original, much smaller goal of getting some kind of collaborative editing into Gutenberg, how difficult is this problem? How soon might we see a release? It sounds as if there's some kind of beta testable version available on GitHub if people go to the issue, and we'll drop that in the show notes. How many hurdles are still left? How many obstacles are still
to give you a sense of the power of YJS, Kevin implemented that prototype for Gutenberg in a few hours.
Okay.
And so, I don't want to trivialize the complexity of what we need to do next. Integration with users and permissions, offline editing, adding the presence, the awareness features of seeing where the cursors are. So we definitely have a lot of work ahead of us to polish and make it awesome. But we were very quickly, able to make the basics available, at least at a block level within Gutenberg. And so that's the next steps. Make it collaborative within blocks, make it fully peer-to-peer so that you don't need any technology to distribute with it for WordPress, and then add some of those presence and awareness features.
Yeah, I just want to be fair here. Gutenberg was really well designed for this kind of shared editing experience. This demo that I pulled together in just a few hours, it was only possible because Gutenberg builds on immutable blocks, immutable data types. So this data binding from YJS to Gutenberg and vice versa, it was really straightforward. So that was really nice, an awesome experience. The more complicated things that we need to fix, are probably permissions, and really making sure that no unauthorized users can access your document, and also handling WebRTC signaling via WordPress. These are some unknowns for me, but I'm really confident that this will be possible soon.
Have you actually used the demo yet, Steve?
No, I haven't used Fab. That was going to be my next question, actually, was if people are curious about the Gutenberg implementation and also YJS in general, where can they go to find out more? Where can they go to test the demo? Where can they go to see some of the other demos you may have for non-Gutenberg products?
So Kevin has a demo online, which is actually, it's just Gutenberg itself. It's not within WordPress in this case, but you could go there right now and we could all be collaborating in real time in Gutenberg, like right now. It's online, it's there. You can test it out, and then you can also say, hey, I found a bug, this doesn't work. Right now, it, for example, uses a lot of CPU. That was one thing to fix, but the other part is, it works already, and this is so cool.
Yeah. So maybe after this, after this, I can send you a few links so you can go to my pull request. I make continuously updates there, inform you about the state of the project. And there are many YJS demos. There's YJS-demos.now.sh, I think, on my website, yjs.dev, and of course on my GitHub project site, GitHub/YJS. You will find a lot of information, especially on the GitHub side, about CRDTs, how YJS implements it, and about shared data types, and about the amount of data bindings that already exist.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, guys. I've got my mind slightly blown from talking with you today. So people can go to the WordPress GitHub and see the work you're doing on integrating with Gutenberg, but they can also go and explore YJS in general to learn more about building collaborative editing into multiple platforms, perhaps Drupal, perhaps Django, perhaps other CMSs or other platforms they use to.
Right. And please leave messages. The current version of YJS is still in beta because I haven't gotten a lot of feedback yet. So I would really appreciate any feedback you have on the way I implemented it, just the design of the framework. There's a discussion board, discuss.yjs.dev, and please leave out your experience with YJS because the version 13, when it is stable, when I make a final release for that, I plan to support that release for quite some time. So it's important to me to get this release right, and I would, because of that, really appreciate any feedback.
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Fabian, Keith, Michael. Thank you so much for joining us.